You'll have to excuse me this morning for getting a little bit philosophical, existential. After all, it is All Saints Sunday. But it is interesting and I think important to affirm and to think about and reflect on the truth that we are all creatures of time. We live in time. And now I'm not trying to sound profound here, but to be human is to live in time, to be aware of time, to shape our lives and our awareness around time. Time is such a universal and obvious thing, this experience of time, that we don't think about time most of the time. It just is. Part of our existence as we travel through time, always forward inexorably from one moment to the next. To be human is to travel through time. Now, anthropologists and sociologists point out how much our experience of time is shaped by things we don't realize, by our society and culture. In our mostly Western capitalist civilizations, we operate as if time, and you'll hear this, is a commodity, right? Linear, mapped out from one thing to the other. Time is a commodity that is cut up into pieces according to our calendars, where we go from one thing to the next meeting, the next task to be accomplished, the next thing to be done. The next activity scheduled, finished preferably in time, so we can go on to the very next thing. Time, as we say, is money, is it not? Time is valuable. So much so, and I'm confessing here, that we get perturbed and frustrated when things don't fit into our time schedule. Do things start on time? Do they finish on time? There's the old joke that Presbyterians give 1 hour for worship, and God forbid we don't end up on time. A lot of people looking at their watches. Some of them may be signaling, okay, speed it up, preacher. Time is so precious and valuable to us, such a commodity, that we even get a little irritated when the internet takes a few more nanoseconds to download, right? What's wrong when it took 2 seconds to download my Facebook? I get frustrated. There's something wrong with the internet. Call the internet company. You experience that as well? Or when my Netflix buffers for a second or two, I get perturbed. I don't have time for this. I need to celebrate my time, and I've got to get on to the next thing. In fact, probably one of the worst things we can say to another human being, and hopefully I try to think if I've ever said this, but one of the worst things we could say to another human being is, "You're a waste of time," right? Time is vitally important to us. Now, Ecclesiastes, this preacher, whoever she was, doesn't understand our experience of time in that way at all. For this preacher of wisdom, time is understood not as a commodity, but as a gift, a grace, undeserved, unmerited, to be cherished, to be welcomed, and to be experienced fully. For everything there is a season, she preaches, a time for every matter under heaven a time to die, a time to be born, a time to weep, and a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to laugh. Over and over here is a time for everything. Time is not a scarce resource, even though we think of it in that way. There's an abundance of time for all these experiences of being human. Time is this gift, even when those times are difficult and challenging, most especially when those times are challenging. Ecclesiastes is wrestling with the existential reality of life and death and its meaning. It's good to know that human beings thought about this, pondered about this, and gained wisdom in wrestling with the very questions we often, if we have time, ponder ourselves, right? What does it mean to be mortal? And the preacher says, I have seen the busyness that God has given to everyone to be busy with. God has made, gifted, everything suitable for its time. And I know that whatever God does endures forever. Nothing can be added to it, nor anything taken from it. Time is a gift. In other words, receive that gift, enjoy it, cherish it, experience it fully. I think it is a very common human experience that we often do not think about or value time until we experience the reality of mortality, the reality of death, or our finiteness, whether it's our own or a loved one's. I can share the story. My father died in a car accident. I got the dreaded phone call in the middle of the night and then had to fly down to Houston the next week, and again caught up in the grief of that. I found myself sitting in an airport in Dallas-Fort Worth and having this profound experience of being out of time. Everybody was off flying to meetings and doing their work, and yet here was this moment, in this moment of grief, in which I felt out of time. And it took weeks, if not months, to find a way in which time made sense again. Now, I also tell the story of the final weeks of my mother's life, dying of cancer in her bed. And many of you may have experienced this, but when we sit with someone who's dying, time disappears. You lose a sense of tracking time. It's like you're in this bubble with those you love, in which you are in this moment and now, and you cannot think above and beyond. And I think most people, as challenging as that is, as profoundly grief-filled that is, there is a gift in that time given to us. And the truth is, as I reflect on those experiences, what my experience in death of my father, the death of my mother, I wish most of all, and I think most of us can relate to this, to loved ones who've passed away, I wish most of all if I just had more time with them, right? Eckhart Tolle wrote a book titled The Power of Now, in which he reminds us of the wisdom of Ecclesiastes. He argues that this present moment is the only thing that's real. And only this present moment matters. Our worries about the future are not real. Our regrets about the past are simply in our minds. The moment now is where we encounter God. In this moment, whether it be joy or sorrow, weeping or laughter, in this moment now is what is important, valuable, meaningful, and a gift. So I was reminded of that again this week when I went to go trick-or-treating with my grandson, Lawrence, Kansas. And I have come to realize that my spiritual guides these days are my two grandsons, 2 years old, right? They've become my spiritual teachers. And they remind me at one point that every single one of us knew the importance of time or experienced time very differently than we do as adults. I wonder where we lost that. But I go walk with my grandson outside, go trick-or-treating, and there is no sense of time. You don't go anywhere fast with a 2-year-old, right? But it's actually a moment to stop and marvel at a stick or at the shape of a rock or to feel the joy of seeing a squirrel or the marvel of a gift of a piece of candy or the pain of falling and scraping a knee. I'm trying to learn to see the world like my grandsons do. So today of all days, a day when we light candles remembering those whose lives shaped our own, those who loved us and whom we loved, those that we might have memories of time together. Let us take time today to be in this moment, to weep if we need to laugh, to mourn, or to celebrate, but let us give thanks to God for the gift of time. To God be the glory this day and forevermore. Amen.